Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video today on the channel, and today, before anything, I do want to address the elephant in the room, and where have I been for the last couple weeks? I've not made a video or a review, honestly. I've made some other videos, but I've not been making any reviews, as you can see. And all I can say about that, honestly, is I'm sorry. Like, I just haven't had the time to really sit down and talk about any movies as of lately. That is going to be changing. I have not been able to, though. I've been extremely busy. The Mortal Kombat videos have been the ones that are been the easiest that I can post, so you can get something out of me. But I do apologize for not reviewing anything. Plus, this month has been, like, dead, like, for movies. Like, I have not had a single movie that I've went to the theater and watched and been like, yeah, I want to talk about that on my channel. Like, I haven't really had one until today, which we are going to be talking about, in my opinion, one of the most underrated horror movies of this year by far. But if you haven't guessed already from the title of this video, today we are going to be talking about the brand new sci-fi thriller movie, No One Will Save You, which was recently released on Hulu, I believe it was last week, sort of thing. And this film was directed by Brian Duffield, and in this film we follow Bryn, who is a loner. She lives in a huge house by herself, and she's very much cut off from the rest of society. But during one night, Bryn realizes that there may be someone trying to break into her home, but what she doesn't realize is that this is no normal break-in, and in fact the intruders that are trying to make their way into her home are actually extraterrestrials from another world. Now that's all I'm going to say without spoiling any of you, and before you say, oh, he spoiled the entire movie already, it's literally all over the marketing. If you've seen this trailer before, it's extremely obvious, like, what the premise of this movie is. So I actually feel pretty comfortable saying what this movie's about, because it is the truth. This movie is marketed as an extraterrestrial break-in movie, and I'm gonna say it right now, I kind of love this movie. I thought it was fantastic, and I hate that no one's talking about it because this is very much a movie that should have went to theaters, in my opinion, but it got dropped on Hulu, which I think is so stupid and so sad that we can get a movie this good and it just gets dumped on streaming, in my opinion. And I think that's just so stupid, especially because I like this movie a lot, and I'm really, really upset that this movie hasn't been getting proper recognition, because I think it's great. Now, before I actually get into the really good stuff about this movie that I'm really excited to talk about, I do want to talk about some of the quick cons I have with this movie first, because no movie is perfect, and this movie is the same thing. There are some things about this movie I'm not a huge fan of, and starting off with that, I will say that the aliens in this movie, the designs of the aliens themselves, are kind of generic. If you've seen anything to do with aliens, or if I was to just tell you right now, think of an alien right now, you're gonna think of this, 100%, and that's exactly what you're gonna get with this movie. They do try and change the design of the aliens a little bit throughout the course of the movie, but I'm not gonna exactly spoil that part of it. But if you've seen an alien in media before, you know what the aliens are going to look like in this movie, which is kind of unfortunate, but it actually kind of works for the story that they're actually trying to tell, but I'm not going to spoil it past there. And I also do want to say the CGI, for the most part, doesn't look amazing. Like, it doesn't look bad, certainly, but you can very much tell that this was a streaming movie. Like, they didn't have the budget to make the aliens look as amazing as you would want. This movie almost feels like a A24 movie that's just PG-13, and for some that's really gonna excite people, and for some that's not, because some people just want to see a horror movie with just kills and blood and scares and jump scares, and this movie isn't that. This movie has a lot of suspense, and really good suspense that we're going to talk about, but this movie does have deeper layers in the movie that some people aren't going to find very appealing, and they're not going to like, and they might actually find confusing, because there are a couple moments in this movie that might be a little confusing to the average person, and even me, to be honest. I kind of had to rewatch it just to truly realize what some of these messages were and what they were going for, but I thought it was really good in this movie. But I know there are going to be some people that are not a big fan of it, and especially the ending. This movie, I think, is going to be very polarizing to the people who watch it. But okay, with all the cons out of the way, let's just get to the pros. I really want to talk about the really cool stuff about this movie that I think it really makes it stand apart from regular movies, and is that the first thing I do really want to say is that I think that this movie is incredibly intense. And I know I say this a lot when it comes to thrillers, but I really think this movie checks all the boxes in terms of what you want from a really good thriller. Especially from the point of view of alien movies are typically kind of cliched. Like, I think it's very difficult for some people to get sucked into the idea of aliens, and especially finding that scary. Like, I know a lot of people, especially close to me, that think that aliens are lame, they're stupid, they're not scary in the slightest. And I think this movie may kind of change your mind in some ways, but I think this movie really, really, really makes aliens really scary and really suspenseful. And I think that really has to come down to the sound design, because the noises that come out of these aliens' mouths are incredibly unnerving. They are incredibly they make your skin crawl. Every time an alien makes a noise in this movie, you kind of just like all crease up and you get very on edge. This movie puts you on edge very, very easily. And that doesn't just come down to the sound design, it comes down to the raw cinematography as well. Which obviously, I thought this movie looked beautiful, but this movie was really smart in cinematography and its framing. Like, there's one scene in the movie very early on when these aliens are breaking into the house where you see the door start to open. And it feels very much like that very cliched, oh, you're just going to see him walk through the door, or it's going to kind of open, or it's going to slam shut, or something lame like that. So it's framing on this door, but what the filmmakers are really trying to emphasize is that there's a shadow looming right beside the door, and you can see it like slowly walk into frame. And it's just little moments like that that are sprinkled throughout the movie that made this movie feel so damn intense and scary, and made it feel so impactful. There are so many great sequences in this movie where our protagonist is trying to evade these alien invaders, and it's so much fun to watch, and it's so intense, and I love it. And also, a really cool thing I do want to say about this movie is that this movie has basically no dialogue. You're probably going to realize it when you get through the movie, but for me at least, I think it's a real testament that I forgot that our characters haven't been talking the entire movie, because this movie has such a great mystery to it. And it's so intriguing, and it kept me just invested the entire time. I loved what they were going for in this story, because it was very simple, but it was extremely effective in what they were trying to do, to a point where I was sitting there for the first hour, and then I kind of sat back and said, she hadn't said a single word throughout this entire movie. Like, the most she's done is like give an occasional scream. No one has talked through this entire movie, but from that you can tell what the characters are going through, you can tell what the characters are feeling, you can understand everything that's going on throughout the movie without the use of dialogue. And I think that has a lot to do with the really good acting from Kaitlyn Dever. I think she did a fantastic job in this movie. But honestly, I think that caps off all my things I wanted to say about this movie. I just really like this movie. I really wanted to talk about it. I know this probably wasn't a very, in-detailed review or anything, but I more just want people to go try and give this movie a watch, because some of the reviews, I guess, will say otherwise, and some people might doubt it a little bit, but I honestly thought this movie was a hidden gem, especially for a streaming site, and I think it's a movie that people should really try and go watch, especially if you're a fan of alien movies and thrillers, and that's why I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. But with all that said, if you like this video, please like and subscribe down below for more content on the channel coming pretty damn soon. I'm going to be trying to get back to my regular reviews. I got some coming up that I'm very excited about, but if you're interested in that, like I said, subscribe. It helps a lot. But I hope you all have a great day.